The Netherlands is a country, primarily located in Western Europe, and partly in the Caribbean, forming the largest constituent country of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. In Europe, it consists of 12 provinces which border Germany to the east, Belgium to the south, and the North Sea to the northwest, with maritime borders in the North Sea with these countries, and the United Kingdom. In the Caribbean, it consists of 3 special municipalities, the islands of Bonaire, Sint Eustatius and Saba. Netherlands literally means lower countries, in reference to its low elevation and flat topography, with only about 50% of its land exceeding 1 meter above sea level, and nearly 17% falling below sea level. With a population of 17.2 million people, which is twice the population of Switzerland, and half that of Saudi Arabia, it is the 69th most populous country in the world, right after Syria and prior to Senegal. The country covers an area of 41,800 square kilometers, of which the land area is only 33,500 square kilometers, making Netherlands the 12th most densely populated country in the world, and the 2nd most densely populated country in the European Union, with a density of 521 persons per square kilometer. The history of the Netherlands is a story of seafaring people thriving on a lowland river delta, on the North Sea in northwestern Europe. During the Middle Ages, the descendants of the Carolingian dynasty came to dominate the area, and then extended their rule to a large part of Western Europe. The Catholic kings of Spain took strong measures against Protestantism, which polarized the peoples of present-day Belgium and the Netherlands. The subsequent Dutch revolt led to the splitting in 1581 of the Burgundian Netherlands into a Catholic, French and Dutch-speaking Spanish Netherlands, and a northern United Provinces which spoke Dutch and was predominantly Protestant. The latter entity became the modern Netherlands. During the Dutch Golden Age, which had its zenith around 1667, there was a flowering of trade, industry, and the sciences. A rich worldwide Dutch empire developed, and the Dutch East India Company became one of the earliest and most important of national mercantile companies based on entrepreneurship and trade. During the 18th century, the power, wealth and influence of the Netherlands declined, due to a series of wars with the more powerful British and French neighbors. The UK seized the North American colony of New Amsterdam and renamed it New York. The French Revolution spilled over after 1789, and a pro-French Batavian Republic was established in 1795 to 1806. Napoleon made it a satellite state, the Kingdom of Holland, and later simply a French imperial province. After the collapse of Napoleon in 1813 to 1815, an expanded United Kingdom of the Netherlands was created, with the House of Orange as monarchs, also ruling Belgium and Luxembourg. The Netherlands was neutral during the First World War, but during the Second World War, it was invaded and occupied by Nazi Germany. Indonesia proclaimed its independence from the Netherlands in 1945, followed by Suriname in 1975. The post-war years saw rapid economic recovery, followed by the introduction of a welfare state during an era of peace and prosperity. The culture of the Netherlands is diverse, reflecting regional differences, as well as the foreign influences, built up by centuries of the Dutch people's mercantile and explorative spirit. The Netherlands and its people have long played an important role as center of cultural liberalism and tolerance. The country has a tradition of pillarization and a long record of social tolerance, having legalized abortion, prostitution and human euthanasia, along with maintaining a liberal drug policy. The Netherlands abolished the death penalty in civil law in 1870, though it was not completely removed until a new constitution was approved in 1983. The Netherlands allowed women's suffrage in 1919, before becoming the world's first country to legalize same-sex marriage in 2001. The country has had several famous painters like Rembrandt van Rijn, Johannes Vermeer, Vincent van Gogh and Hieronymus Bosch. During the Dutch Golden Age, from 1581 to 1672, literature flourished with Joost van den Vondel and P.C. Hooft as the two most famous writers. Anne Frank's Diary of a Young Girl was published after she was murdered in the Holocaust and translated from Dutch to all major languages. Traditional Dutch architecture is especially in evidence in Amsterdam, Delft, and Leiden, where numerous buildings from the 17th and 18th centuries can be observed along the canals. The Netherlands is the country of philosophers, Erasmus and Spinoza. Much of Descartes' major work was done in the Netherlands, where he studied at Leiden University. The Dutch scientist Christiaan Huygens discovered Saturn's moon Titan, argued that light traveled as waves, invented the pendulum clock, and was the first physicist to use mathematical formulae. Antony van Leeuwenhoek was the first to observe and describe single-celled organisms with a microscope. The country is also known for its music traditions. Traditional Dutch music is a genre known as levenslied, meaning song of life, to an extent comparable to a French chanson or a German Schlager. These songs typically have a simple melody and rhythm, and a straightforward structure of verses and choruses. Themes can be light, but are often sentimental and include love, death and loneliness. Traditional musical instruments such as the accordion and the barrel organ are a staple of levenslied music, though in recent years many artists also use synthesizers and guitars. This extensive list of festivals in the Netherlands proves the Dutch people's love for parties, where you're bound to see a celebration taking place in just about every city in the Netherlands at some time throughout the year. While Amsterdam hosts most of the country's largest dance music festivals, neighboring cities such as Breda and Rotterdam have their very own unique Dutch celebrations you won't find anywhere else. Springtime festivals in the Netherlands celebrate the colorful blooms of tulips, daffodils, hyacinths, and bluebells, while wintry months see major squares blanketed with Christmas markets and celebrations of St. Nicholas. Experience the uniqueness of Dutch culture by planning your trip around a festival in the Netherlands. King's Day commemorates the birth of King Willem-Alexander with street parades, dance parties, and live music on 27th April. One of the largest festivals in the Netherlands, thousands of people of all ages make their way to central Amsterdam, where colorful boat parties decorate the 17th century canals, and bands perform along the streets of Rembrandtsplein and Prinsengracht. The predominant wind direction in the European Netherlands is southwest, which causes a mild maritime climate, with moderately warm summers and cool winters, and typically high humidity. Ice days, where the maximum temperature goes below 0 degrees Celsius, usually occurs from December until February, with the occasional rare ice day prior to or after that period. Freezing days where minimum temperature goes below 0 degrees Celsius occur much more often, usually ranging from mid-November to late March. Precipitation throughout the year is distributed relatively equally each month. However, summer and autumn months tend to gather a little more precipitation than the other months, mainly because of the intensity of the rainfall, rather than the frequency of rain days. The number of sunshine hours is affected by the fact that because of the geographical latitude, the length of the days varies between barely 8 hours in December and nearly 17 hours in June. The Netherlands is a constitutional monarchy with a parliamentary system, with the monarch Queen Beatrix serving as the official head of state. The Prime Minister is head of the cabinet. After a general election, the Queen and the Prime Minister form the government, with the sovereign appointing ministers, and the cabinet deciding on policy and exercising executive power. There are 3 tiers of the government: the national government, the provincial government and the local or municipal councils. Statistics Netherlands, the Dutch government institute that gathers statistical information about the Netherlands, found that 50.1% of the adult population declared to not be religious. Christians comprised 43.8% of the total population and were divided between Catholics by 23.7% and the members of the Protestant Church of the Netherlands by 15.5%. Members of other Christian denominations were 4.6%. Islam comprised 4.9% of the total population, Hinduism 0.6%, Buddhism comprised 0.4%, and Judaism 0.1%. The majority of the population of the Netherlands is ethnically Dutch, making up 80.9% of the population. The country's official language is Dutch, with West Frisian as a secondary official language, in the province of Friesland, and English and Papiamentu as secondary official languages, in the Caribbean Netherlands. Dutch Low Saxon and Limburgish are recognized regional languages spoken in the east and southeast respectively, while St. Romani and Yiddish are recognized as non-territorial languages. Did you know that Dutch people are also one of the healthiest when it comes to diet and nutrition? In the Oxfam Food Index of 125 countries, Dutch people rank number 1 for having the most plentiful, nutritious, healthy, and affordable food, above France and Switzerland. Amsterdam is the capital and most populous city of the Netherlands with a population of 0.87 million within the city, 1.5 million in the urban area and 2.4 million in the metropolitan area. Found within the province of North Holland, Amsterdam is colloquially referred to as the Venice of the North, attributed by the large number of canals, which form a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Originating as a small fishing village in the late 12th century, Amsterdam became one of the most important ports in the world during the Dutch Golden Age of the 17th century, and became the leading center for finance and trade. In the 19th and 20th centuries, the city expanded and many new neighborhoods and suburbs were planned and built. The 17th century canals of Amsterdam and the 1920th century defense line of Amsterdam are on the UNESCO World Heritage List. Sloten, annexed in 1921, by the municipality of Amsterdam, is the oldest part of the city, dating to the 9th century. It is primarily known for its artistic heritage, elaborate canal system and narrow houses with gabled facades. These characteristics are arguably responsible for attracting millions of Amsterdam's visitors annually. As the commercial capital of the Netherlands, and one of the top financial centers in Europe, Amsterdam is considered an Alpha World City by the Globalization and World Cities Study Group. Moreover, many of the world's largest companies are based in Amsterdam, or have established their European headquarters in the city, such as leading technology companies Uber, Netflix, and Tesla. In 2019, Netherlands imported goods worth $646.75 billion and exported goods worth $750.17 billion, resulting in a trade surplus of $104 billion, making it the 6th largest country in terms of imports and 7th largest country in terms of exports all across the world. The top exports of Netherlands are refined petroleum worth $46.9 billion, broadcasting equipment worth $18.1 billion, packaged medicaments worth $16.2 billion, and computers worth $11.2 billion, while the top imports included crude petroleum worth $55.4 billion, refined petroleum worth $48 billion, broadcasting equipment worth $21 billion, and computers worth $17.3 billion. Tourism in the Netherlands is a relatively small sector of the country's economy, with a total contribution of 5.4% to GDP and 9.6% to employment. The country is known for its charming villages and towns, set in a beautiful flat landscape. The best way to capture and explore the alluring beauty of this country is by cycling at no costs. Netherlands is home to some of the most exotic tourist spots. The Amsterdam's Canal with its 400-year-old streets, beautiful architectures of cafes, shops and hotels will blow your mind. The Keukenhof, the Garden of Europe, boasts of an exquisite floral bounty that just cannot be missed. The Hoogeveenderweg National Park is the largest nature reserve in Netherlands, which is famous for hiking, bird-watching and also biking. The splendid Van Gogh Museum is a delight for art lovers, ranked as the 35th top art museum in the world. It houses the magnificent paintings of the famous painter Vincent van Gogh. With still much to allure the tourists, the Anne Frank Museum in the capital is also a famous spot that narrates a beautiful tale of the young Anne Frank's courage, through her writings during World War II. The Windmills of Kinderdijk is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which houses the largest surviving combination of windmills in the country and simply cannot be missed. The Zeeland Spectacular Dikes is a star attraction, and an engineering marvel, that is built to prevent floods using modern techniques, while people also enjoy walking along the dikes while inhaling crisp, cool air. Football is the most popular sport in the Netherlands, with field hockey and korfball as the second and third most popular team sports. Speed skating, cycling, tennis and golf are the four most widely played individual sports. A number of native Dutch sports are also practiced, such as vieljeppen, bugelen, karsen, klutskaarten, kolven and korfball. The nation has won 266 medals at the Summer Olympic Games, and another 110 medals at the Winter Olympic Games. In international competition, Dutch national teams and athletes are dominant in several fields of sport. The Netherlands women's field hockey team is the most successful team in World Cup history. The Netherlands baseball team has won the European Championship 20 times out of 32 events. Did you know that the Dutch are also the most physically active population in Europe? According to the Eurobarometer, around 56% of Dutch people play sports on a weekly basis, compared to the European average of 40%. This is largely owing to the fantastic infrastructure throughout the country, which allows people to walk and cycle for work or fun. The famously flat country boasts 20,000 kilometers of bicycle paths, making cycling in the Netherlands an extremely pleasant activity. In fact, the country has more bicycles than people. The country's cuisine is shaped by its location in the fertile North Sea river delta of the European plain, giving rise to fishing, farming, and trading overseas, and the spice trade. Traditionally, Dutch cuisine was simple and straightforward, with many vegetables and little meat. Breakfast and lunch are typically bread with toppings like cheese, while dinner is meat and potatoes, supplemented with seasonal vegetables. The diet contains many dairy products, and is relatively high in carbohydrates and fat, reflecting the dietary needs of the laborers, whose culture molded the country. Influenced by the eating culture of its colonies, particularly the Dutch East Indies, it became more cosmopolitan and most international cuisines were represented in the major cities. Some famous local food includes bitterballen, which is a delicious, deep-fried crispy meatballs traditionally served with mustard for dipping. Then we have stroopwafel, which is nothing but two thin waffles stuck together with a layer of sweet syrup, and also Dutch pancakes, which have a thinner, crepe-like consistency with more surface area for delicious toppings. With a nominal GDP of $909 billion, the economy of the Netherlands was the 17th largest in the world in 2019 in terms of GDP, according to the World Bank. The Netherlands has a developed economy and has been playing a special role in the European economy for many centuries. Since the 16th century, shipping, fishing, agriculture, trade, and banking have been leading sectors of the Dutch economy, with agriculture contributing only 1.6% to the country's GDP, industry 17.9%, and services having the biggest share of 70.2%. The Netherlands has a high level of economic freedom. It is one of the top countries in the Global Enabling Trade Report, and was ranked the fifth most competitive economy in the world by the Swiss International Institute for Management Development. In addition to this, the country was ranked the second most innovative nation in the world in the 2018 Global Innovation Index. Its mixed market advanced economy had the 11th highest per capita income globally. The Netherlands ranks among the highest in international indexes of press freedom, economic freedom, human development and quality of life, as well as happiness. In 2019, it ranked 10th on the Human Development Index and 5th on the 2019 World Happiness Index. The European euro is the official currency of the country. Did you know that the first stock market in the world was invented by Dutch legislators and businessmen back in 1602? Yes, the Amsterdam Stock Exchange is the oldest in the world. As part of the Dutch government's National Climate Agreement to reduce emissions by 49% by 2030, it plans to make all new cars emission-free by then. This means virtually banning petrol and diesel-powered cars in favor of battery-powered vehicles. As a result of favorable taxes on electric vehicles, the sales volumes of Tesla cars have risen significantly in the Netherlands, from 8,600 in 2018 to 18,500 in 2019. The Netherlands is the sixth largest economic power in the Eurozone and the fifth largest exporter of goods. Unemployment rate is relatively low, at 3.4% in 2019. The country is very open to trade and consequently to the global economic conjuncture. For the past few years, the recovery in Europe has allowed the Dutch economy to grow at a dynamic pace, and despite a maturing business cycle, the country's growth remained resilient in 2019, at 1.8% of the GDP. In recent years, the government's fiscal policy has been expansionary, nevertheless, the Dutch public finances remain sound. So this was all about the Netherlands. If you find our videos informative, like, share and subscribe to our channel Explified.